What's up, True Nation? This is LC, National Director at True Lacrosse. I'm really fired up for today's episode. We sit down with the legendary Jim Berkman at Salisbury. He talks about what it takes to be a Seagull and how he has maintained such a high standard. It's a great look inside the mind of the winningest coach in NCAA history. Of course, we get a good dose of Jake's unfiltered dialogue on Snake's takes. He's got a strong opinion on who survives, the PLL or the MLL. We find out who's hot with Coach Gable and so much more. Welcome to Full Tilt, powered by True Lacrosse, an unfiltered and honest look into all things lacrosse. We bring industry experts, college and high school coaches, true family leadership, and players who breathe lacrosse. True Nation, are you ready to go full tilt? All right, cool. We'll get fired up. So, welcome to Full Tilt, powered by True Lacrosse. I'm LC Morshell. We've got with us today Mike Gable, Jake Dean, Kevin Finn. How's everybody doing today?
Doing all right.
Good.
All right, man. Doing all right.
So, obviously, we're in kind of a tumultuous time right now. I think everybody in the lacrosse world and the entire world itself is kind of feeling a lot of different things. I had a quick question here to just get everybody started up, get the dialogue started. How is everybody dealing on a day-to-day basis with the stay-at-home social distancing? What's driving you insane? How are you keeping your sanity? And then what do you miss the most?
Are you going to call on us, or are we going to just say it?
There we go. Somebody answer. Mike, you're up.
I'll go. I'll be honest with you. Like I would say the first thing is to create your own schedule on a daily basis. So I know, like, right at the beginning, it's like, all right, staying at home. I know for myself, I've got a wife and two kids now, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, daddy's home, he could play all day. And so I've been able to get myself into a rhythm, but also kind of secretly train my family to, like, leave me alone at certain times of the day so I can get all my work in. So I would say that was, like, kind of the one thing that I've always, like, at first it was kind of tough dealing with, being at home and everybody being like, all right, cool, now we can all hang out and do stuff like that. But being able to cut away some time in the morning, some time in the afternoon, some time in the evening to make sure I'm staying on task and all my work done. So, and then just working out, creating a good routine so that you can kind of, like, set a time where you stay on top of it and get it done. But yeah, I don't know. It's ironically, I feel like we've been able to be creative on some of the things that we're doing in the lacrosse industry. We're offering maybe even, like, some more opportunities for the kids now in our program, and then maybe even in the future. So it's kind of unique. I think we're adjusting to the time, and there might be some cool things that actually come out of it.
So would you say there's two types of people in this quarantine? There's people with kids and people without kids?
Yeah, I think ones that are married and ones that are not married too. That might throw a wrench into things too.
And that could change drastically over the next couple months.
Yeah, I mean, if you're solo right now, day after day, might get a little isolating.
Yeah, for sure. Mike, what do you miss the most? Obviously we're not allowed to do a lot of certain things. What are you going to do when this all things lifts?
Just be able to, like, interact with people. I mean, I don't know, just like I would say the biggest thing that I run into is just, like, the awkwardness sometimes go to the grocery store or going to do stuff where it's just like I just sick of the awkwardness when you walk down the street and people are, like, moving to the other side of the street. So I don't know if we'll ever change that, but I don't know. Jake, what do you think?
I mean, I've just been doing push-ups and sit-ups, man.
You got the Ray Lewis cards?
No. It's not Ray Lewis, LC. It's Herschel Walker. All right, go look it up online. 1,000 push-ups, 1,000 sit-ups a day. All right, and I recommend everybody, and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, man. All right, you can't go to the grocery
Ray Lewis
store.
has the deck of cards. No, Ray Lewis has the dice. Herschel Walker has the deck of cards, right?
Yeah, no, Herschel Walker. They're two different eras. All right, Herschel Walker, bobsled guy, played on the Olympic bobsled team, played football. All right,
Never
MMA fighter. Go look him up. All right.
Never lifted weight. I know
There's no
exactly.
comparison.
If you're
The Dallas
doing
Cowboys
1,000
traded Minnesota
sit-ups a
Vikings
day,
for him.
if you're doing
Yeah, you should see
1,000
my
sit-ups
abs.
a day,
I have better abs than you right now.
you're gonna have 18-pack when we get back.
Yeah, you should see it. I mean, I would whip off my shirt right now, but I don't want to do that the viewers. But,
Jake, you were holed up in Chicago.
yeah, I mean, it's pretty rough right now. I'm in a 2-bedroom apartment with my wife, and we're going crazy at each other. We just need to get out. I haven't been able to breathe fresh air in like 5 days. All right, it's terrible. It's terrible. But I can't wait to get it back out and just not wear a mask. I mean, I've been wearing a mask everywhere I go and gloves. And it's just, I just want to be able to talk to people. So
You got to get us a picture of that. I think we all need a picture of you wearing masks and gloves out to the grocery store.
yeah, so it's brutal right now, fellas.
Ben, you're down in Florida, huh?
Well, unlike Diener, I had some foresight to get out of town. I also live in a high rise in downtown Chicago, and it's probably just consumed with COVID at this point. So I made it south. And like Gable said, routine is important. Everything about my routine in Chicago was shut down. So that would have been a struggle. But down here in Florida, I've created a new routine. I take the dogs for a walk on the beach in the morning, work during the day, and I fish at night. And you could go as far as maybe to call me a fisherman now. So, it's
What are you
kind of
catching
nice.
down there?
Yeah. Most recently, Spanish mackerel.
Ooh.
Ate it for dinner last night. I'll send you guys some pictures.
You
But a lot of
you fillet them up?
I did. First time ever last night, and got a bit of a new hobby now. So
Yeah, I saw a picture of that. Those fish had some teeth, man.
yeah, I thought it was a freaking barracuda.
Yeah.
Well, I
Shit,
can
man.
tell you that I
Yeah, I
think
could be in a worse place.
I think the fact that you cannot go out and just do normal things right now, and when I mean normal things, like even Mike alluded to it, you go to the grocery store, you got your head on a swivel, and you're like, all right, where is everybody? You're almost like sizing up the defense and seeing where everybody's at, because you don't want to touch anybody and you don't want to get that same aisle situation, because you don't want to be that close to somebody.
For some reason, every time I go to the grocery store, like I walk in and I have to sneeze, and it's like, dude, if you cough or sneeze now in public,
Yeah, you're outcasting,
like,
man.
Out of here.
How many times do you guys put hand sanitizer on during the day?
Dude, I have bloody knuckles because my skin started to crack from putting on hand sanitizer and washing my hands.
Yeah, I don't leave the house that much, but when I do, it's like it's everything. Touch something, put it on. Touch something.
Yeah, I only interact with the fish in the ocean, so not much sanitizer here.
So, hey guys, shifting gears real quick. I mean, obviously, I think we're in like a, totally unique situation in every industry. Sports as we know it have disappeared. There's nothing on television. ESPN is showing movies. I think we're all counting down the days for the Jordan documentary to come out, to give us some new, fresh sports stuff. How is this affecting club lacrosse for True Lacrosse, and then across the board? What are we going to do as a group? And I'll just start with Jake, because I think Jake's guys constantly thinking about new ways to get things out. What are we doing right now to make sure that we're staying in touch with our families?
We're just trying to stay positive, stay engaged with our players and our families, continuing to try to be creative. I think you have to at this time. You got to keep moving. You got to keep moving. I whether that's exercising or working or doing something, you got to keep moving. And I just think that's so important right now, to continue to keep interacting with our players and our families and continue to provide them with stuff to do. And for us, just in general, as coaches, directors, to be doing things. Because if we don't do things, that's when your mind can go bad.
Yeah. I think to Jake's point, being really positive with everybody. I mean, there's a lot of we keep on saying a lot of uncertainty what's going on. We communicate on a daily basis with other travel teams, tournaments, college coaches, high school, other state by state. I mean, everybody. I mean, people are trying to watch the news. It's kind of tough. And so just trying to stay positive. I think the one thing that we're doing, actually, I think a pretty good job of, I think we were probably ahead of the game versus a lot of our competitors in the industry, is just being connected with the kids and checking in, seeing how they're doing, and giving them lacrosse assignments, providing them content for them to check out, which I think is we're getting some awesome response. I think we're creating some really cool relationships, long-lasting relationships and loyalty with our customers, because we're going the extra mile to connect with them. And I think we kind of alluded to it before. Like sometimes we need to do that. Like it's nice for us to be able to get on maybe a Zoom call with like 30 kids or 200 kids and be able to kind of like interact with them during that time. And it's kind of fulfilling. It kind of checks off that social box that I think we all need.
Yeah, for me, it's been pretty cool getting some FaceTime with these guys, our players, without their helmets on. It's a whole different group all of a sudden. And to be honest, even though it's virtual, you really feel like you get some kind of intimate interaction with the guys because it's off the field. We're without pads. And it's been great to catch up with guys, trying to motivate them to get out and about. Not everybody has developed a workout routine when they're 10, 11, 12, 15, 16. So motivating the guys to get out there and do whatever they can, run push-ups, sit-ups, the Herschel Walker routine, or some of these guys that have workout rooms that have that luxury, try to kick butt and think of the light at the end of the tunnel and prepare for it now.
What's the best Zoom background you guys have seen?
Probably my real one.
I saw a kid had like a shark jumping up and like right around his head, like when you turned it on.
I saw one of Mike Gable.
Background of me?
Yeah, I saw one. Yeah.
What was that? What the heck?
You and your little stance like that, or your big stance. All right.
Who it was? Who was it?
I don't know. I was like, oh, that's Mike. I just went on to the next.
I can't even do that. My computer won't even allow me to have like a virtual background.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you got to fiddle with.
That was you in your wide stance, man, with your arms out. Right. I think it was a machine one.
Yeah, I usually go with the standard First Blood Rambo background, but I try not to overuse it.
The best is when like it's just like kids and parents are all like in the background like messing around and stuff like that. That's always hilarious when there's other.
I don't even know how to fix the background. That's another thing you gotta. I don't even know how to do that. Switch it up.
You got to go to the video settings. It's pretty interesting, but I would definitely say we've all learned a little bit about virtual learning.
Yeah,
it's interesting, but
technology guys now.
Yeah, it's something I think you'll see moving forward. Even when this thing is all lifted, I think it's something we should continue to use, and I'm sure a lot of companies will start to lose. I'm wondering if America's learning that a lot of their employees can be more efficient at home. Just because, and then saving on office space.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. I mean, a lot of times when after tryouts, we usually have like a big presentation. Some parents are going to probably just request that it get Zoom sent to them, or that they're interacting with it that way. So
right. Or if we just broadcast it there anyway, in case somebody can't.
And we can imagine how many, if that goes for our field, how many meetings that are usually held from San Fran to New York, they're going, hey guys, we've been able to do this for the last few months over the computer. Let's get rid of that 4 or 5 hour flight and just do it on Zoom.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we want to start our first segment here. And obviously this is a new thing for us, but I think the first thing I want to do is introduce the segment as Snake's Takes. I'm gonna let Jake explain what a snake take is and what Jake the Snake is. I think we're all curious on how he got that nickname anyway. College nickname or high school?
That was a high school nickname. That goes way back by a guy the name of Chad Walbreck. Woo! That's what he used to always do, man, to me.
Sounds like a Massachusetts name.
In high school, before every practice, he would line up the whole team on the sidelines. And he would say this quote. He goes, "Today's a great day. It's a great day to play lacrosse. It's a great day to be with your teammates. Please cross this line." Okay? And so everybody on the team would have to step across the line, and then we would begin practice. All right? And he just decided one day, he's like, "Snake, I want you to cross the line first, man." And kind of stuck with me. He gave me a snake necklace. All right? And then
what kind of snake was on there?
Yeah, a little silver snake, little black mamba. All right, and Then I got to UMass, and Coach Andy Shea, he brought it to UMass. Just started calling me Snake wherever I went, and still to this day, all the coaches that I see, they call me Snake. So
All right, so we got Snake's take. It's a hot take, something controversial. Jake, you're known for having some abrasive moments on the lacrosse field, whether that be playing or coaching. Day-to-day life, there's moments where you're probably a little abrasive. Would you agree?
Yeah, I'm not going to go with the ordinary. All right, rather lead than follow.
So exactly, this take, it's something that I wanted. We wanted to create some conversation around. I think it's a good opportunity to talk about. Obviously everybody's thinking about, well, summer's going to get canceled. Club lacrosse is, may not happen. College lacrosse got canceled. Those kids are all going to get an extra year. But my curiosity here, and maybe Jake and Mike can talk about this a little bit more, the PLL versus the MLL, is that going to end now? Are they going to be forced to play their cards and come together? I mean, you can't imagine that those two leagues can both coexist for that much longer. And then now that you're talking about possibility of not having any ticket sales, any, games played, any players on the field like representing themselves, is there a possibility that we see that coming together here, based on what's happening across the world?
Yeah. So we had the opportunity to talk to Rob Pennell the other day, and the enthusiasm that he showed of moving from the MLL to the PLL. I mean, it was very noticeable that the MLL, and that was the original pro lacrosse, and I'm a big fan of, when I was growing up, it was watching all the top players playing that, the dream of playing for the Boston Cannons or one of the top teams, and then obviously getting the opportunity to play and being teammates with Jake. We spent a lot of years growing up in that league, and we're kind of some of the the originals, and it's sad to see it go in a different direction, although I'm starting to buy into the direction that it's going. So the players are really embracing the PLL, and that the kind of adjustment of the rules, making it a little bit faster, kind of changing of the guard. The one thing I noticed about the MLL after a while is it was kind of like the boys club. If you were like a name guy and you were in the league for a while, you stayed. It was very hard for the younger good players to break into the league, and I feel like it created this next generation of guys to the younger players to kind of take charge and take over. In terms of what's going on with this summer, who knows? But to your point, I think the PLL has a lot of momentum with the kids that are growing up right now, hearing all the top players and the social interaction, that I think the MLL is going to really have a tough time staying together or running a league moving forward after this coming summer.
Yeah, there is absolutely no way the MLL is staying in business. Okay, absolutely no way.
That's a Snake take.
And listen, here's what I'm telling you. I love David Gross, Jake Seinfeld. I was a fan of him with his workout stuff. All right, but in the end of the day, I'm sorry, it's no one wants to watch the second best product. Okay, you got to understand that that's the second best product. I bet you there's some college teams, and I hate to say this, there's some college teams that could beat some MLL teams. All right, all the best talent is with the
No
PLL
doubt.
Now, is the PLL going to be able to stay around? I hope so. I'm buying into the product. I love how they shorten the field. I love how they have the best players playing. I love how the coaches and the players are all into it. But, you got to have some heavy pockets to get a league going. And I hope it stays around. But, we'll see. But that's the best product right now. And I'm just not buying. I'm selling everything in the MLL if I'm with the MLL.
Selling it. Put it in the order.
Yeah.
We're selling Snake's take. We're getting out of it.
Yeah, I'm so too, as I think the final nail in the coffin was as they expanded to these two new teams, Can of Beans and the Water Dogs. They took the best 20,
Yeah,
the
you
final
do know
best
the Can
20
of
players
Beans
from the
was an
MLL.
April Fool's joke.
Yeah, as they expanded, they took
Granted, it's a great name.
the top 20 players to from the MLL. So, those guys that were kind of all-stars, the Pennells, those guys are now gone, and I think they're going to find out real quick that it's a little bit more men's pickup than it is pro league.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, think about college players. They're not like, oh, I hope the MLL drafts me. They're thinking the PLL. You know, that's where the top players are. That's what they want to do.
Who's left in the MLL that's like, I mean, who's
There's
actually
no
left?
one. There's no one. They took Zach Courier, PLL, Rob Pennell. But Ryan McNamara, he's still in the MLL. He's still in there.
Will Nowesnick.
It's not top
He's
20.
still in there. He's still in
Unfortunately, I
there.
love the guys.
All right. They're loyal, man. They're troopers.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing because they canceled Wimbledon, they canceled the British Open. Obviously those are international travel type things, but like right now, if you're a realist, and I think we're all optimists here because we want to get back on the field. It looks like if you're going to try to start a league after Memorial Day and compete for ticket sales with another group, you're probably not going to have games. So what do? Do you push your season back into the fall? I mean, the MLL went into like October this year or something? It was weird, right?
Yeah.
They played a later season. They tried to attract more fans that way, and I don't really think it worked.
So here's what you do. Joe Tsai, he's the big backer in the PLL. All right. He's got the big pockets. You do what the NBA is considering doing. You play all games in the Bahamas.
Well, baseball's got the Biodome.
You fly everybody to the Bahamas. They stay there, all right, for 2-3 months, and you just play game after game. And everybody's tested for the virus, and you just play. And they put the game.
No fans, Jake.
Yeah,
no fans at all.
Well, they'd hope
no
for
fans.
their NBC. They'd hope NBC is able to get it out and get some revenue that way.
I heard that they are looking into doing some type of virtual ticket where somebody like pays a pass, and then they get to see every game on their computers.
Pay-per-view lacrosse.
Yeah, but
I thought that was already NBC Gold. I thought that's what they're doing.
Actually, that would be everybody would watch it. Everybody's home. I'd watch it. I'd subscribe.
Yeah. Well, that's what you said. You don't want to watch the secondary league right now. I would watch the G League. I would watch that 3-on-3 basketball tournament. Like I'd watch any sports right now just to watch sports.
What about a Big 3 lacrosse? Think about that.
But how would you do that?
I mean,
check it
Just
up.
a long game of Jenny with a goalie that comes out.
Yeah, long game of Jenny. You know what I mean?
Didn't they try doing that? Didn't they try doing that with like some USA rules or some international rules?
Well,
that was.
So the thing is, they are doing a horse competition now with like Chris Paul and Trey Young.
Yeah.
I'll be interested to see. I mean, maybe we can get you out of there when you get back to Maryland. We can get you on the field and do virtual horse.
Yeah, some virtual horse.
Yeah, they can challenge you to a virtual horse game.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just think, going back to the initial point, I don't know if the MLL survives through this kind of pandemic, and then
I think we all determined it's probably not going to. And we can determine that.
I'm just curious if this is the nail in the coffin right now.
Every owner should sell their franchise. Every owner should get out of it. It's done. All right.
You heard it here first.
Snake steak.
Steaks, baby. Awesome. So just to move on here, and let's keep things rolling. And I do want to talk a little bit more about one of the topics they brought up. But right now we've got our second segment before we get to our interview, which is Who's Hot Topic. And Coach Gable's going to lead this one and give us kind of an idea of what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically the idea is I'm going to be throwing out a topic, something for you guys to just think about real quick. Maybe it's going to be a quick answer, maybe not. But all of you guys, had a really good college careers, getting the opportunity to be coached by a lot of cool coaches. Can you name a college coach that's active right now that you would say, boom, I want to go play for that college coach right now? Maybe give a couple reasons why, okay? And no disrespect to the coach you had. It's just kind of maybe somebody that you've interacted with, you've seen the way they coach, you're like, hey, that would work well. Maybe it's something different. Maybe you want to test it out and see. I'm going to start with LC. Name me a college coach right now that you're like, man, I'd like to play for that guy. And why.
So this is an awesome question, and knee-jerk reaction just based on what's happened currently is just talking to Coach Berkman. That guy's awesome.
Woo! Seagulls.
I've always thought, and this pains me to say it, because I hated the Towson Tigers. going to college at Drexel. But Sean Nadalin just seems like a guy that walks the walk, talks the talk. He does all the things, on and off the field, right? And he looks like he can still kick most of his players' ass. So I just feel like he's the kind of guy that's a culture guy. And every time I see him on the field, he's down to earth, but he's commanding a practice. And I also think it bodes well that he hired two of my former teammates to be their offensive and defensive coordinator. But I would definitely say Sean Nadalin be number one on my list. I wish he wasn't at Towson, but yeah, that's my go-to right now.
Yeah, Jake, what about yourself?
So I got a couple questions about this question. Am I going to play with the current team that's there right now, or I'm going to play with my old team? Who's on my team?
I think
it has nothing to do with it. It has nothing to do with it.
That's going to decide which coach I'm going to pick, right?
I mean, not necessarily. I mean, if some athletes go in there and they're like, I like this coach, I want to play for him, done deal. I don't care about it.
The question wasn't about your team.
I pick my same coach. All right.
You can't pick the same coach. You have to pick a different coach.
Coach Pinella retires. Coach Pinella retires. Who you picking?
All right. Who do I pick? Different coach. Let's see. I would go play. I think I'd go play based off of talking to John Danowski. I'd probably go play for John Danowski at Duke. All right. I'd probably go play for him. He seems like a guy that would, if I had the green light there, it'd all be, if he was a little fuzzy line with me, I wouldn't go. But if he said, Jake, I'm going to let you do what you need to do. I don't care if you get penalties. I don't care if you get beat one-on-one. You can do whatever the hell you want to do. I'm going to go play with him. So there's a caveat to that question.
Let's talk about the fuzzy line. I want to talk about the fuzzy line.
Yeah, you just named something that any coach could possibly do. Like what things about Danowski did you actually like? Do you like to?
Well, he seems like he lets his players play. He's a player's coach. He's not going to scream or yell at you. Kind of going to let you do what you want to do. And I think I like that. I didn't get that green light until my senior year in high school or college. Senior year in college.
What about
Andy J kicking
Paul
my ass?
Cantabene? I feel like Paul Cantabene is a perfect guy for you. Cantabene.
Yeah, it's all about if you let me play. Just let me play.
Well, I mean, a coach is trying to let his players play, Jake, but you got to respond to coaching.
Yeah, at some point.
Sounds like you just want a hall pass to go do whatever the hell you want.
Well, when we talked to Danowski the other day, it sounded like he lets his guys just go. And, I mean, anytime I've ever seen him coach, he's not screaming or yelling. He's just kind of like letting the guys do their thing. So, yeah, pretty interesting. Finn, what about yourself?
Yeah, it's easy to think about those top 10 Division I guys, or you mentioned Berkman, who obviously I played for. He's a Hall of Fame guy. I'm gonna get a little personal experience with it. Jake, you might know him. This guy goes by the Warden, and he heads up the Providence Friars right now. Chris Gabrielli.
Oh, he's a
he was my defensive coordinator when I played at Butler prior to
hold on.
the program.
I thought Mike said the question was somebody you hadn't been coached for, like hadn't coached you before.
He wasn't the head coach. We didn't specify.
Can we clarify this real quick? Because
wasn't the head coach.
I picked somebody that's never played for.
I love the Warden. I love the Warden. Warden.
Finn's in a tough situation. He's interacted with a lot of coaches.
Yeah.
When you transfer,
you're taking away about
30%
of the NCAA here. So, Chris was Gabs was a stud. I loved how he had the nickname the Warden because the guy was a badass in college and beyond. And he was a player's coach. I talked to him when he was at Duke. Didn't quite have the grades to get there at the time. Talk about classroom necessity. Geez, would have been nice. But I think joining up with Providence and playing under Coach Gabs would be pretty cool.
Great coach. Was coached by him for 3 years. So
you could be by the water.
Yeah,
right there in the water.
Yeah, I would say I would go with similar to ULC. I was going more in line with Nadalin at Towson. Anytime that I've ever talked to him, he's a pretty quick like no bullshit type of guy. Quick like yes no. it's my way, and you just, I'm always a big fan of like guys that were defensemen. He's somebody that played like pro lacrosse, badass defenseman, and values the D middies on the field. So being a goaltender, just love guys that are that are really into defense and get guys fired up and shit type of thing. So.
He's got great traps too. It looks like he's still.
He definitely works out.
Yeah.
Definitely works out.
Yeah. He's got more abs than you do right now, Jay. Guaranteed.
I mean, talk about a trend with top level lacrosse coaches. These guys are fit, man. They don't mess around. Everybody we talk to talks about their workout routine before we get into anything else.
Berkman's still doing what, 185 miles? Something like that.
I don't know, but he says he basically does a bike race every single day after he pumps out 100 push-ups getting out of bed.
Yeah.
Maybe a controversial subject, Mike, but if we expanded this question, who would you not want to play for right now?
Interesting.
Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, I would say, to be honest with you, I would say probably like Syracuse. And I like some of the coaches on Syracuse. I just, I know that, to Jake's point, he talked about like, teammates, how did the teammates and maybe the other people that get recruited or the culture at that program. I've always wanted to go to a school that was not one of the blue bloods. I always wanted to go to a school that was one of like the blue collar, not white collar school. And I feel like Syracuse, I feel like all the guys there are almost like overly entitled to like, being the best team and so forth. They've always been a team that like I've always enjoyed teams beating.
Yeah, I would totally agree with you, but I'd go Hopkins, and it has nothing to do with Coach Petramala. It's just the fact that you can't get that damn fight song out of your head, and if you're not part of that fight song, you don't want to be a part of it. And same thing. The culture there is different. Like, I'm not going to say it's bad. It's just it's a different culture. Like,
now you've seen Petro when he turns that certain shade of red, and I think that scares you off, LC.
It's the same suntan you got
He can
going
fire
on.
you up though. Petro can fire you up, man.
Yeah, like I said, it had nothing to do with Coach Petra. I think from a large standpoint, it would just be tough to go to Hopkins and play.
Yeah, I'd say Jacksonville. I just hate the area of Jacksonville. I like Galloway. I like Galloway, but I don't know if I could go live in Jacksonville.
Yeah. Well, it's not the greatest place in the world.
Or Hartford. One of the Hartford or Jacksonville.
Yeah. Hartford's tough. Sacred Heart's pretty bad too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an easy one for me. I'm not playing at Marquette. Everybody wants to play there, living in Chicago. It's like a smaller Chicago with worse weather. And, I'm kind of sick of it. So you ain't finding me at Marquette.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. So real quick, we'll bounce right into kind of reviewing Coach Berkman's interview. Now that we're on top of college coaches, and Finn, obviously you played for the guy. I've got buddies that played for him, and like the only thing I've ever heard is I love Jim Berkman. Like, he's a cool dude. Like, after talking to him in an interview, like, I can't say anything bad about the guy, and I could say I told him at the end of the interview, I'd be like, if you had called me in 2002, I probably would have picked up the phone and gone over there. So Finn, you want to talk about your experience there, and then like maybe some memorable stories about Coach Berkman, and then I know I have a couple talking points based on what we talked to him about, dealing with what's going on. So.
Right. Well, it was definitely an experience playing for him. Obviously, the guy is the winningest coach in, NCAA history. He's in the Hall of Fame. So, he's been on the right path for some time. It was funny to hear kind of right off the bat, Coach Berkman talk about how he doesn't yell that much anymore. From my experience and from the, recent alumni that I talked to, that's not the case. But it goes to show you what maybe he was like 25 years ago as he got started. As a lot of these guys can be pretty nuts on the field. So, he's a player's coach, a guy that wants you in the office as much as possible, meaning his office, as opposed to a lot of guys are, can be like, hey, get the hell out of here. So he wants to spend time with you. If you're a guy that, can't get his studies right, you need to do your homework in his office now. I mean, talk about a guy that tolerates his 50 players being around. He has you do homework in his office. I wasn't one of those guys, but certainly there's a handful of them at Salisbury, especially when you have 50 man on the roster. So I was really excited to interview him. You know, he gave us some insight on their culture there, what they've been doing to win all these national championships, to have, you know, a 95% win percentage. And, you know, it was great to catch up. Some good stories and things that he was able to offer us about what's going on these days and what's going on in Division III lacrosse. So I think it'll be a fun listen for everyone out there.
He was my first recruiting visit. He walked me around the campus.
Jake?
Well, yeah, I almost went there. I wasn't getting recruited D1, and my dad and I went on a whole tour with him around Salisbury. He was the only one that recruited me at the time.
What did Jeff think of Salisbury?
He was like, I want you to come play for this guy. All right. And that was until I got on the Jeff Dean workout plan. But I was 6'3", 135 pounds.
You're not 6'3" right now.
I'm 6'3", my cleats on. All right.
Oh, okay.
All right. So playing weight, baby. Playing weight. All right. So
it's like what you're listed on the website. You're like, this guy's 6'5", 240. It's like
playing weight, man. Playing weight.
Yeah. What were you listed on the UMass website?
6'3", 200. All right. So, playing weight. You add up. You go weigh yourself. All your pads on. You put your cleats on. That's your playing weight. That's your height and weight. So
it sounds like you got to get back on Jeff Dean's workout plan.
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm on Herschel Walker, so I can't just leave someone's workout plan and go to another one. All right, I got to finish it. Okay, but no, Berkman, he was my experience with him was awesome. He was recruiting me, and I almost ended up going there because I wasn't getting recruited by anybody else.
So I had a bunch of interesting takeaways from this interview. Number one, the guy is like, he even said it. He's like, I'm a glass half full guy. I'm an optimist, So when you talk to him, we talked to him about like pressure, like what kind of pressure is it to continuously, continuously win, continuously get the best recruits, every year you guys are, he's like, it's not pressure. He's like, my expectation is we're playing for national championship. I'm doing the same thing I did last year, the same thing I did 10 years ago. And I'm just keep repeating it. If it's working, I'm going to keep winning. He's like, and the expectation when people come here is that we win national championships. So my players already know before they even like have their first practice, that's the expectation. And I think that's a really unique, perspective. He doesn't view anything as pressure. He's just like, this is what we're doing. This is how we're doing it. So I thought that was really interesting. And I mean, even with this whole, situation that they're going through and every NCAA team is going through, he's like, hey man, it's opportunity for us. We're looking at the transfer portal. Some of these guys that are, we're excited. We're getting 7 out of our 9 guys are already committed to coming back. We're looking at a really, really good team next year. We were 7-0 leaving the season this year. So I thought that was interesting. The other thing that I think is really cool, and it was one of the questions we asked him. It's like, you've been at Salisbury for 32 years. You haven't left. And that's unique in today's world. I think everybody is looking for something new. I mean, LeBron James has changed teams 3 times. We don't have any of that Michael Jordan type players anymore, Jake.
Jordan went to the Wizards, all right? Jordan went to the Wizards. Let's not forget that.
Who?
Jordan. He went to the Wizards.
That didn't count.
Yeah.
So I think it's really interesting in today's age, like even the Division I racket, like, those guys, they'll go have a good season somewhere, and then they all of a sudden they get a bigger, better job, in their eyes, or in the perception of the lacrosse world. So I think it's interesting. A guy like that has just been like, I'm on the Eastern Shore. I love it. I love the school. I love my office. I love the kids I get to recruit. And I don't really have any interest in ever leaving, nor even talk about leaving, which is rare because, I mean, even the coaches I played for in college and now all dispersed elsewhere. Greg Cannell is another one like that. He just stays put. So I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, and one thing, just a slight correction for you, LC. The Gulls, they haven't been doing the same thing for the last decade. They have had the same mindset. And they present a certain mindset to you, and you either buy in or you don't. And those figure it out pretty quickly. And those at the bottom of the totem pole that maybe are bought in and stick around but aren't good enough to play right away. You got 50 guys on a team. Many are not getting on the field. Berkman figures out a way to get them to succeed and play a role to contribute. And when you got 50 guys contributing in every practice to get better, you're going to have good things come game time.
Hey, so what obviously, Finn, you went to Salisbury. I mean, there's big perception that they almost over recruit. Any kind of discussion on points on that? Just I've heard that you go to fall tryouts and there's tons of kids there. What's the deal with that?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. A little bit of a false perception from people, because those fall tryouts are open to anyone. So if you call Coach Berkman beforehand and say, hey, I'm looking to come, he says, yeah, you're welcome to. Hey, Coach, I want to know if, I'm guaranteed a spot, because if I commit Division I, I sign a letter and I'm guaranteed a spot. He says, no, you're not guaranteed a spot. And that's part of the inter-squad competition. We're not going to have anybody let up for 1 minute and say, oh, yeah, I've got a spot. Oh, I solidified my scholarship. I've achieved it. Everybody is on the chopping block at all times. And that's why every single day, fall, winter, through spring, you've got a 50-man depth chart that's 1 through 50. So where do you fall in the midfielders? And then where do you fall amongst the entire team? And that's listed daily. And if you're looking for a soft, cushy position where you say, hey, I'm on the team and this or that, you're not going to fit in well at the competitive nature at Salisbury.
Wow.
That's pretty cool. Did he tell you who's his best player ever to come out of Salisbury? Who does he think?
Yeah, he dabbled in a few different guys. LC, you remember who he was saying were the top guys? It was nice.
He went back to 95 and started naming Jake Berge, who I've always thought is, one of the greatest players to come out of Salisbury. Kaufman, who his brother played at UNC and he was averaging 8 points a game or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
Michael Sowers type numbers.
Yeah, he was having 8 points a game for 4 years. He named his son. He said Kyler was up there. Sam Bradman, who I played with, was an all-star, was up there. So he said it was pretty hard to kind of pinpoint. But he did say one player in particular that gets some of the best recognition from the Seagulls, Kyle Hartzell. He said, he didn't play until his senior year, and he didn't figure out how to work hard. And nothing against Hartzell, and I'm just kind of speaking secondhand, until he got to Salisbury. So he said he really figured it out at Salisbury, and that kept on going, and that's why, he had that work ethic that continued on through the MLL and PLL and Team USA. And, he said he's super proud of them. And he goes, he said, I was interacting with a totally different guy at junior year of college.
Interesting.
He did say, we asked him, Jordan or LeBron, and he said Jordan, hands down, Jake. So,
well, maybe we should bring him on the show to have another discussion.
He's a basketball guy, basketball coach, basketball player in college. He knows the sport. He says the NBA is his favorite thing to watch outside of lacrosse on TV.
All right, well,
he's a basketball
discussion.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll just have, anybody got closing remarks before we move into this interview? Jake, what do you got for us?
I thought this was great. I'm glad. I hope everybody enjoys this. If you have any other controversial or opinions, questions, please bring them to our attention. But next topic, I would like to talk about, do you think Division III teams could beat Division I teams? I think we should talk about that.
Maybe I'll add that to the next one.
We'll dive into that next week. So, Finn, what do you got for us?
Well, when we're talking Division III Seagulls, then, we got a whole different story. But as far as topics moving forward, I just look forward to chatting it up.
Division III teams, not these Division I hybrid teams.
I look forward to chatting it up with you guys and talking everything under the sun, lacrosse, virus, and whatever comes our way.
Yeah, it was fun checking in, going through some stuff and hearing people's perspective, and looking forward to the next one.
Yep, obviously, from us at True Lacrosse, we hope everybody, maintains their routines throughout the social distancing period, quarantine.
Their sanity.
Hot words, yeah, sanities, and find some constructive hobbies to do, as well as try to keep the stick in hand. I think our goal with this podcast and to get the word out is just to start talking about things that are going on in club lacrosse, talk about things that are fun to discuss, and then hopefully continue to expose people to great people in the lacrosse world. So
go look up the Herschel Walker workout. For everybody out there, go look it up. I'm telling you right now, change your life. All right?
Cool. Until next time.
Peace. So today we have the pleasure of talking with the winningest coach in NCAA history. Coach Jim Berkman of the Salisbury University Seagulls has been in the game longer than most. Has won 12 D3 national championships, trained over 228 All-Americans, compiled 553 total wins as a head coach. He's a Hall of Famer and completely dominant in the Division III lacrosse. For me personally, it's awesome to catch up with you, Coach, as my former college coach, and a huge reason why I'm in the game and coaching today. Now we've got an outlet for others to find out about more about Coach Berkman personally and why the Seagulls have had so much success and what goes on there in the Eastern Shore. So really excited to have you.
Yeah, Coach, we appreciate your time today. It's going to be, hopefully a good conversation. And during these times, we can hopefully brighten people's day and give them something to think about and talk about. So
I'm always excited to talk about lacrosse, Kevin, and LC, and always excited to talk to a former Seagull for sure.
Awesome. So to get started, as the COVID-19 started sweeping the nation, I know me personally, I thought, well, hey, this could be in China or it could be some different places. It's not going to affect us. It's not going to end up in the magnitude that we are now. What was the thought as this started coming across your guys' table and this is possibility between you and the players? What kind of was the thought as this all started happening?
Well, I think first of all, Kevin, everybody kind of knew something was going on in China. But I think in the back of our mind, we were all hoping and praying that it was going to stay in China. And for a while, it looked like we were doing a really good job of keeping it out of here. And by that time, we were starting to get into the mix of the season, and we're slowly progressing along. You could still see things happening, but as the season started to get going, started to realize that, this was a pretty special team. We knew we were pretty good coming in, but God, we'd have handled everybody. One, as you know, is a very difficult place, but it handled a pretty good Gettysburg team pretty well on their own field, and beat a real good Lynchburg team. And we thought, man, each day we came out there we were improving, which is always a characteristic of our program, that we had a legit shot this year. And then, that it all happened like in a week. In a week we started, you started hearing things possibly about the Ivy League and those people shutting down. And on a Wednesday, we're still playing Cortland on Saturday. And Ivy League had shut down, and Coach Bevel had called me and says, hey, we're all systems go. And then a day later, he's like, we're not going anywhere. And then Nick Ferrantino says they're still going on their spring break, and we're playing on Tuesday night. That Thursday morning, then Thursday afternoon, we're at practice, and that's when the NCAA shut it down, and we were in the middle of practice, and man, going back to that locker room and telling the guys that it was over, and I've been doing this a long time, coaching for 38 years, to go tell a special group that had worked really hard and had all the tools at every position to win it, to vie for another championship, that we were done, man. Nothing prepares you in coaching. And I haven't missed too many things in 38 years, but nothing ever prepared me for the tears and the emotion and the stricken sadness that occurred in that room that day.
Yeah, I could imagine. For the team having so much success at 7-0, going to planning on playing a rival with Cortland in another tough game. Yeah, I can imagine that seniors all the way down, guys, were just heartbroken and, really up in arms about how could this be happening.
Hey, Coach, as a, you've been coaching a long time. You've never seen anything like this. It seems like the reality of all this, it's taken a while to set in. I mean, in another week or so, we'll be almost, in this self-isolation period, no lacrosse period, as long as the lacrosse season was running. Have you had to, have some basically untrained conversations that are, a little bit different with your student athletes? And obviously we're doing a virtual session here. I've seen a lot of schools doing virtual stuff. It's probably tough for an 18, 19, 20-year-old to try to get their brain around, especially when lacrosse is such a big piece of their life. What have you guys been doing at Salisbury to try to combat that and keep these guys high-spirited?
Well, we try to touch base with them a couple of times a week with some text. I still have my freshman academic meetings on Monday with them over the phone. Coach Axel's communicating with his guys a lot on the offensive end. But the biggest thing for us, and we've tried to impress this upon them, LC, is that they got to try to form some kind of routine, and it's kind of funny because I was sitting out here wiping my car down yesterday, and TJ Logue, who's a senior fifth-year FOGO for us, was still in town because he didn't bother going home. He just stayed in his off-campus apartment because it was a lot safer to stay down here and go to school online than it was to go home. And he was like, Coach, I'm so glad that I stayed and didn't go home. All the guys I talked to are at home. It's just hard, at home. You got mom cooking all the meals. I'm not getting up. Where they've been able to stay a little bit more in a routine for the guys who have hung around and stayed at their off-campus apartment for the other guys. But, trying to get them to work out at the same time every day. Don't make it haphazard. I'll get it when I get up. Try to get them to study the same times. And the more they get into a routine, the more success they're going to have, just like as if they were here and they were going full strength. But I think for us, and Kevin can tell you, I'm a guy that the glass is always half full here. It's never half empty. And, where there's a difficult situation where a player makes a mistake in the past, we never sulk for a minute, Salisbury. We always talk about next man up. We always talk about that opportunity that's presented itself. And right now, an opportunity has presented itself in a very unique way for a lot of young men if they want to grasp it, And it looks right now, with the NCAA granting this eligibility, and I know it's going to be difficult at a lot of schools, but we have 15 kids in our senior class and 9 or 10 of the best 10 that dominated our roster have made a commitment to coming back. And you talk about excitement. You talk about, 8 All-Americans returning that came off the Maverick team from this year. They're fifth-year guys. You never had a chance to coach that team before, with that much experience in the fifth-year players. It's like coaching Alabama football. You're always coaching 23-year-olds because you got the whole freshman class, that are redshirting. But, man, what a makings of another team for next year and for them to seize the moments, and to get a second chance. And then even for some of our younger guys, Luke Nestor, his dad, I coached, and one of my first captains in my first team at Salisbury is the women's coach here. Man, Luke's a special guy with a 1% work ethic. And, man, he's going to be able to play 4 more years for me at 6'1" and 190 and he got a great left-handed shot. And that's just exciting for me. That's exciting.
Great perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've heard about some coaches' takes on, having some of these seniors back, and then at the same token, having freshmen come in. So you've got many times or potentially a bigger team than usual, more guys vying for the few spots that get in every game. How do you think that's going to alter things or, change kind of the day by day for either those seniors that are coming back or freshmen coming in?
Well, I think there's a lot of things that are going to play into it, Kevin. I don't think we're going to know them all until everybody gets here. But we were just on a conference call, we had a staff meeting this morning, and the second one we've had virtually, and the president of the university was on there. And, one of the questions wasn't even a question for him that I had. I said, Dr. Wright, just an awareness. So, because I know this is going to come across your desk, and we've already talked to our AD about it. We're going to need some bigger rosters for a few years. You can't limit us to our number of 48, 49 guys like we have because of gender equity and all the other stuff. You're going to have to allow us to have some more players because there's no way that we got to be able to hold our allegiance to those seniors, and we've got to be able to hold our allegiance to those kids that are coming in that we've been recruiting. So I think everybody's going to have, especially the next 4 or 5 years, is going to have some bigger rosters. There's no doubt about that. The reality is it's going to be even hard. You know how hard it is for a freshman to play in a good program anyways, and not that people don't, but it's a growing process. And it's going to be even much more difficult when you talk about if you get a school that has, even if it's just 5 of their best guys who are going to stick around and play another year, that's going to set everybody back maybe from getting on the field, for a few more minutes.
Yeah. So Coach, following up on that, I think it's pretty interesting. You're lucky at Salisbury is got a graduate program. You might have some kids that are moving into, their 5th year and, they're going to go pursue another academic degree. Some of these other Division III schools, and maybe this works beneficially to Salisbury, is they're done in 4 years. If those kids are done, there's really not much they can do other than drop out of school right now and then return for the spring semester, which could be a complicated situation for some kids. Do you anticipate seeing D3 schools kind of fluctuate rosters, and it's almost like free agency right now, entering the transfer portal, and maybe pursue Division I aspects and see if they go up to that realm? Because all you guys are trying to win, and I feel like a Division I coach, if he knows something's he's able to get somebody on a roster from a Division III All-American, would he go after him? And is this something that we're going to see heavily this year and maybe in the future?
I think for some of the special guys, we keep our eye on that portal every day. What's going on in there, and there was 4 or 5 really special guys in Division III that and we reach out to everybody. We don't leave any stones unturned here, and 1 or 2 of those guys just said, hey coach, I've had a special career, and I want to challenge myself, and I'm trying to go into the D1 thing, and for a couple of them, that's a no-brainer, and it's a no-brainer for the D1 guys either, because they got a proven 23-year-old defenseman. If they got a need, is probably better than maybe any of the defensemen they have on their team right now for some of the mid-majors, especially for a couple of those guys. But I think the portal in general is just it creates a lot of issues. And it just takes a lot of loyalty out of the situation, and it's just like a free market out there. You almost believe it's just you like to plan out like 4 or 5 years of your squad if you can, and how it's going to improve and get better, and how guys are going to push each other to improve. But when you get all these free agents, it's almost like it's the NFL at times now, not just in lacrosse, but almost in any sport. And it's even worse than basketball. Yeah, you can go get a whole team in a year, in a portal. So, I don't know if that's what college athletics is supposed to be all about, but in some ways, people have learned to work the system, and I don't think that when they originally put this out there that this was what was intended for it to be.
No. And I think, Kevin's a unique situation. He comes from, a transfer situation. I stayed, 5 years at Drexel. And I can say my error, there wasn't much of that going on. Like if you went to a school, you tried to stick it out and do your best you can, unless it was just not the right social and academic fit. And those were rare, I thought. So I've just seen an increase, and I feel like this opens the door for a lot of it. In a lot of situations, you're giving people almost like a year back, and you're looking at teams and some teams have resources. You guys have great resources and can afford 48 roster or 50 roster spots. Some of these schools can't do that. So I'm just curious as to how this landscape's going to all shift out. And, I hope it doesn't, hurt anybody in the situation. I don't think we're in a position to judge the NCAA, but I'm super interested to see how it all filters out and how we can help our athletes at True Lacrosse understand it. So.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be any perfect world. I mean, the reality is the 20s coming into this, when they show up, some of those guys that they thought they were going to be gone, that maybe they could compete for their spots.
They're not gone.
Some guys aren't going to be like Ohio State had 4 of their best guys. I'll say they were coming back the other day. So obviously that guy that they offered a scholarship to from, wherever it may be, who thought he was taking, that first team All-American spot, and going to be an instant impact guy, he might be playing a different position if he's going to get on the field next year. But, this is unusual times. Nobody has a recipe for this one. Nobody has the scenario how it all plays out. It's a new kind of cake we're formulating, and we're creating the recipe as we go. And just be fortunate that we have a college season next year, and that we can all move forward. And this will be just the smallest thing in the reality of the situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, if nothing else, it should equate to some high caliber lacrosse in the 2021 season across the board with seniors sticking around and
Well, not just for next year. Got to remember this is a 4-year proposition because everybody was granted another year. So for the next 4 years, like already Cross Ferreira, who's just one of the best guys I think could potentially ever play here, and Jared Bromwell, who shoots at almost 100 miles an hour, juniors, they're already going to be coming back, and then out of the freshman class, you got a couple pretty special kids on this team, a kid named Van Parker, who's a D1 player from North Carolina, the Nestor kid. I mean, those are guys that now are only freshmen again. So it's going to cost some stuff, and it's going to cost some really good lacrosse, some high-level lacrosse at certain places when you're dealing with 5 years of players and being able to pick and choose a little bit about the very best. And as you know, we love to work hard here, and we love to do the extra stuff. That's even going to impose people the pressure to, self-impose by the program to do even more so that they can get better and improve.
Well, that's music to my ears, and love hearing about those guys. And I've been love watching them play, over the last couple of years. So that's exciting stuff for any Seagull fan. And speaking of getting that extra workout in, and what the Seagulls love calling the edge, what is kind of the mantra and of the edge, and what is that maybe separates Salisbury or the players there from other people?
Well, Kev, it kind of starts for me. That's kind of who I am. I've always been the guy that's done all the extra stuff. And, one of the first things in my first head coaching job at St. Lawrence when I was coaching basketball, I had some shirts, sweatshirts and T-shirts made that said players are made, they're not born, and that was kind of always our philosophy. And when I came to Salisbury, and I think the key for the last 38 years for us is that we've always been a team that just prides itself and the culture does on doing extra things outside of the normal 3 to 5. And, we believe everybody works hard 3 to 5, no matter where they play. The coaches are good coaches. People want to win, and everybody works pretty hard from 3 to 5. But the difference maker for us over time, and more teams and more kids are doing it now versus what they used to, where we had a real advantage, is that, kids are always doing stuff outside of 3 to 5. And we call that edging here. That's the extra lift. That's the extra wall ball session at 11. That's going in and staying with, watching the extra film. It's coming early. It's staying late. It's lifting 4 times a week instead of maybe just 2 or 3 times. It maybe even means lifting 5 times a week like Brad Abgar does, our best defenseman, who's a first-team All-American religiously. And it's kind of funny at Salisbury, and you were part of it. It's even more now is, when you see a kid, and I see a kid walking around, he could be coming in for his 8:30 academic meeting on Monday. He's a freshman. Before he says, "Good morning, coach," he says, "Hey, coach, guess what, man? I already got an edge in today." And they pride themselves in doing that little extra stuff. And, and you're a prodigy of one of those guys, you can go to a camp and all of a sudden 12 seagulls are there working the camp. And man, all of a sudden you see there's 12 seagulls in the weight room because they've learned how to edge for life, because they take pride in themselves. They take pride in being sharp, and they take pride in being their best. And, that's just one of the things that I've always believed in. But, believe me, I'm in those freshman years every Monday about what they're doing extra when they're in there in that academic meeting and trying to get that to become part, of who they are. And for us, it has to become part of who you are if you really want to be good at the next level and to play, very high level lacrosse.
Well, I got a follow up there, and we spoke briefly on the phone before. I'm an Anne Arundel County product, went to Annapolis High School. The first experience I got with somebody from Salisbury was a guy named Brendan Bellotti. Brendan Bellotti was crazy, and I have a bunch of friends who are Salisbury guys, and I think the consistent thing is they have that, you're calling it edge. I think they're crazy usually. They're out of their mind, and they work hard. They get on the field, and it's a war. I grew up with Max Archin. I played against Louis Gonzalez in high school, and he actually knocked me out cold on the field running off sides as an attackman, which was, hard for me, but I think he had a good time at it. We spoke since, and he's a good friend of mine. And I went to played against Eric DeMunda. All these guys are, absolutely, the kind of guy that you want to go to war with. And I think they've got something different and tweaked about them. And I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on like what you look for to build that culture when you're recruiting kids, because I consistently see that same trend. Like these kids are like, they're even my friend Kevin here. I like working out with him because he's got an edge to him. So I'd love to hear what you're looking for in recruits and how you identify that trait and have kept it consistent over the past 30 years.
Well, there's a lot of things I think, but I think a couple of the main things is number one, we've already mentioned that players are made, not born, and they come to learn to realize that here. And then they know they got to, it's so competitive when they get here that to get on the field, they're going to have to do some extra stuff to bring out the best. But I think the next thing, and Kevin can attest to this, because I remember one day, and I don't remember what year it was when Kevin was with me. It was like, it was some comment when we were having a discussion about what he was going to do with another year about, Coach, you have everything planned to the T on that clipboard. You don't miss a beat when we go to practice. And we don't. And Kevin can tell you, one of the things that separates us from other teams is that there's no downtime in our practices. We compete every minute. We're not out there walking through stuff. We don't play a lot of 6-on-6 where guys, drop the ball and we'll give it back to you. We play 6-on-6. We're playing 6-on-5 with a trailer. You come down, you run your offense. Trailer comes in. It's 6-on-6. And, man, if there's a turnover, well, you're not getting the ball back. They're clearing the ball, and they're going back through three-quarter field, and you got to compete. And you're put in a lot of small-sided situations here where you're right in people's face all the time, and you got to compete. And if you don't, you're going to get embarrassed because guys are out there to win that drill. They're there to win that possession. We talk about playing every possession. And our practices are structured like that, you get a chance to compete against some of the best players in the country, and you got to win this possession, and their practices are planned to the minute. And there's not, when we talk, Kevin will tell you, if you come here, LC, and we're doing a drill and you make a mistake, I'm never going to stop the drill and say, hey, LC, what the hell are you doing? And waste now 10, 12, 15 seconds, getting on your grill. And now what happened? Number one, you're pretty upset at me, right? Now you're not feeling good about me, and I don't ever want that to happen. And then two, now I just wait, Kevin's your teammate. What'd I just do? I just wasted 15 seconds of his rep time. So now we're losing a number of reps. When you get coached here, a lot of times in the drill, you make a mistake. You come out of the drill, and one of the assistant coaches who coaches your position pulls you over and say, hey, LC, guess what? You got to get to 5-5 next time. Understand me? Yeah, coach, I got it. Let's get it next time. Let's go. And that's just how he says it to you. He's not screaming at you, And very seldom do I yell a lot, especially as I get older. But, hey, obviously, LC, if you do something 3 times the same way wrong, probably going to have to stop things because you're a slow learner. But that usually doesn't happen here. So, even I've had a lot of D1 guys come and watch our practices, and they're just like, Coach, you guys there's no downtime, And one of the new things we do, and we like to do, and it's a pretty good thing for you guys in club even to pick up the pace, is that, hey, we're in 4-on-3 Duke drill and we're going to 4-on-3 Seagull drill. I'll just start counting. 5, 1, 2, 3. And in 5 seconds, it's amazing. It might not look perfect the first rep, but already guys are grabbing the ball and they're going, And then, another thing that we've added in the last couple of years is that the D guys even, a lot of times you finish a drill, the ball dies. It's like, the D guys just kick the ball out. We never finish a drill now. If a D guy intercepts the ball or he gets a ground ball, now he has to make a play to somebody. So even if we're in a tight space 3-on-2 drill and he scoops a ground ball, because we always got to finish the play. We can't just because it got dropped. He's got to scoop that ground ball, and then with 1 or 2 steps, we'll have designated outlets where he has to throw that ball to, and has to make that play. Just so that we, are making it more realistic and finishing those big GBs in front of the goal.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, Coach. I love hearing that stuff, and it brings back some great memories. And another thing to touch on LC's story about knowing some of the guys, some past Seagulls and myself, guys might have a little screw loose or some extra enthusiasm, whatever you want to call it. And your guys' ability to channel that into productive things, for me, for instance, I spent a lot of time overtime, but maybe not necessarily doing the right things, whether it be out of the weight room and onto the wall, or out of the weekend and into the weekday, whatever it was, you guys channeling that extra energy into a productive format to get the most out of the players. Something that I've talked about is the Seagull coaching staff being able to maximize individual players, their potential, and many times having guys reach potential that, they didn't think they were capable of prior to getting to the school.
Yeah, well, you got to try to help kids see their potential too. Some people don't realize, where they can fit in, what they could do, and how much better they can get. And being around other people and having great captains too surely helps that. But Kevin, we've always been fortunate to have a lot of Seagulls that stick around and help me coach that live in the area. And so everybody's kind of got, besides the head coach, they got some great Seagull mentorship going all the time by a former Seagull that played here, that knows the way, knows the system, and wants nothing more than helping you, get better. And when you get that extra set of eyes, it's just another person that can get you to start to believe, to see what you can do if you channeled your energies in the right way, that it could all happen. And I think, it's a tribute to all those guys, and I'm so fortunate to have them. I'm so thankful that I have a bunch of guys that bleed maroon and gold that are all here for the mission of the program. It's all about Seagull Lacrosse. It's not about Coach Berkman. It's not about, any one player, and there's been a lot of good ones. It's just about the environment and the program. The program's bigger than anybody here, and we all try to get everybody to realize how they can fit into that and reach their potential.
Absolutely. I don't care what division it is. You don't see 7 guys, very qualified coaches on staff at any school, at any division. And many times each one of those 7 guys could be a head coach themselves somewhere else, but they decide to remain at Salisbury.
Yeah, if you look at our staff right now, I got Coach Axel, who, was a head coach at Eastern Connecticut, has been with me on and off, I think, since 2001. So, and not only was he a head coach, he gave up being a head coach to come back and live in Maryland and be a Seagull coach. And he's my full-time assistant. You got Ben Sandlin on defense, who's been with me for 16 years, who's a high school teacher, who's one of the best defensive coordinators in the country, more than capable of being a head coach anywhere. You got Coach Block, who works in the alumni office, who gets out there when he can, who used to be the head coach at St. Mary's and Hamilton College. You got Eric Miller, who's one of the best goalies in the country, played pro for 14 or 15 years, who's in pharmaceutical sales, that helps with our goalies. We're just very fortunate, that we have those guys in this area that give back and help keep this thing going.
Absolutely. questions that I get often are, and I think it's, you've received it in the talk about, the coach at Salisbury, why wouldn't he go to Division I at one point? A lot of people want to hear what those reasons are, and we all know you've been offered coaching jobs, I'm sure. Why stick around with the Seagulls for so long?
Well, I think there's a lot of reasons, Kevin. Number one, the Eastern Shore is a pretty special place to live, and I'm an outdoors guy, and I love to ride my bike. I got a motorcycle. I got 2 boats. I only need one. I got one for sale if you guys are looking. I got a tremendous support group of people that live here that I've gotten to know over time. There's no better place to live. I mean, the weather is just absolutely pretty much gorgeous here year round. So, it's just like the guy that wants to live in the house across the street. He thinks the grass is greener, but when he gets across the street, he finds out it's not, maybe not quite as good, and he regrets giving it up. So I live in a very special place. That's number one. Number two, and it continues to be this way, you don't win Division III championships with Division III players. You win Division III championships with Division I players. And you look at any of the top 5 or 6 teams, they're loaded with Division I players on the roster. How do they get those guys? It's a variety of ways. We recruit real hard and you choose us over. 2, you're a player that's got a few dents in his armor, but you're a pretty good athlete. Come to Salisbury. We get the dents out of your armor. You're junior, senior. You're capable of playing at any Division I school in the country. And then 3, we recruit some kids, that we really liked. They decide to go D1. We're never, we're always opportunistic. Somebody turns me down. I'm never going to get battered at them. I'm not going to get mad. I'm going to say, hey, congratulations, Kevin Finn. You're going to X university. Wish you all the best. But just remember, if things don't work out, it's always better to be a Seagull late than not to be a Seagull at all. Give me a call. And every year now we get 1 or 2 of those guys, that come back and love it more than any experience that they ever had at D1. So, those are some reasons why I stayed here. But I think the biggest thing is that I just love the area, and I get to coach D1 guys every day. And as you know, hey, we talk about D1. Do I want to go to a mid or lower D1 school and go 500 every year when you got a chance to be a champion and play in front of 25,000 people and actually have better players than those mid or lower D1 schools? So that's why I'm still here.
Yep.
So which one would Finn qualify as, the chink in the armor, or?
I think Kevin had a couple chinks, but I think Kevin got him out when he got here because he worked so hard and he improved a lot. And then we found his niche. Everybody thinks that they're this guy or that guy. And, once you realize that the team is bigger than you and you can play a different role and it gets you on the field, all of a sudden, it's amazing what can happen. And that's what happened to Kevin. He realized, hey, it's much better to be part of something special and work really hard and play D-Midi than to be real frustrated because I'm not playing offense.
No doubt
he
about
told
it.
me he played offense. I don't know.
Well, I know that I had a tremendous experience and unforgettable with the Seagulls, and one of the best decisions I ever made in my life. And one thing that I'm able to use now that I help players move on to the next level through True Lacrosse and through Club Lacrosse is doing the research. Heading out to Stony Brook University with a scholarship and playing Division I and playing maybe top 20 Division I lacrosse was fantastic. But not knowing the in and outs of the school, doing a little more research about what that day-to-day is going to be like, what the coaches are going to be like, and all that, I'm not sure that research was there. And it got me looking, a year later after playing there. And I recall sending you an email, Coach, along with a few other schools I was looking at. I remember Providence was in there. And I sent an email in the evening, maybe on a Friday night. And Saturday morning, about 8 a.m., I get a call, and it's Coach Berkman. And that was the first takeaway I had is, man, this coach is on it. You know, it's less than 12 hours later and I'm not getting an email response. I'm getting a phone call and do you want to come check out the university? It was made pretty clear that you guys do things a little bit quicker. I found that out with stick skills in my first Duke drill, as you know, I might have taken one off the face mask. But yeah, it was nothing but a pleasure playing there and playing for you, Coach.
Well, you know, Kevin, if you're going to be good, it doesn't matter what you do. And even if I'm coaching a club like you guys, you know, the guys, you got to find new ways. You got to be on top of things. You got to cultivate your relationships. You got to stroke your clientele, and you got to treat them in first class way. And you know, whatever little edge you can get in any extra way, it doesn't matter if you're coaching True Lacrosse or you're coaching Salisbury University. You definitely want to take advantage of those opportunities.
And speaking of these Division III champions having Division I players, through True Lacrosse, we've got a lot of guys that want to go Division I. They might have 4.0 grade averages, and they're fantastic students, really smart young men. They're not maybe the caliber to play at a Cornell or a Yale, but they're a Division I player. They want to go to a big-time academic school, and they're looking at the Bowdens and some of these other NESCAC schools. Clearly, those schools and those guys have stepped up their game. What do you think about, you know, just that conference, you know, improving and, you know, some of these guys that are looking to go big time Division I, but, you know, have high academics kind of improving that conference in general. Do you see that on the horizon?
Well, I think that's been on the horizon for a long time. You know, the NESCAC has obviously become a great lacrosse conference, but I mean, you know, the Centennial with Gettysburg and Dickinson and your Sinus and F&M, you know, Washington College, you know, there's a lot of really good, the ODAC, you know, with Lynchburg and W&L and Hampton-Sydney. There's just a lot of really good schools. And I think just the level of lacrosse in general, you know, after the top 10 in Division III, that 10 through 40-ish has really shot up, you know, over the last 5 or 6 years for a number of reasons, you know, and I think obviously is better coaching, but I think a lot of universities, because they're enrollment driven, have made more a commitment to the coaching part of the equation. And, you know, a lot of those schools have a full-time assistant, and even some of them now, you know, in the Centennial, Gettysburg and Dickinson, those schools have 2 full-time assistants that are out there beating the bushes. And you know, they want bigger rosters because it is enrollment driven, and there's smaller schools that are struggling somewhat in the enrollment part of the equation, that, you know, everybody's better in Division III because of that commitment. It's not just academics. It's in general, I think everybody's a lot better. You know, 10 years ago, you know, nobody in the NESCAC had a full-time assistant, you know, now Jane Tarnow at Trinity's got 2 full-time assistants. You know, there's just a bigger commitment to the whole process. And when you get that and you got people working hard, there's a lot of players. And as we know, there's players everywhere now. They're in Chicago, and we've had a couple of them. They're in California. They're in Texas. I mean, they're everywhere now. And there's a lot of smart ones everywhere now. So it becomes extremely, competitive. And if you're working hard and doing your due diligence, you know, it's not that hard to field a really good team, I don't think, if you're really working hard at it now, based on the number of good players and the number of good students out there.
So, Coach, follow-up question on that, because it's a great line of thought. And you mentioned it. There's, you know, more players playing lacrosse than there were 10, 20 years ago, and it's an exponential growth. But Division I lacrosse is not growing exponentially. There's, you know, 1 or 2 programs added every 5 years, much more money constraints. But D3 lacrosse continues to expand. One, are you guys thinking you're a big benefit of that? And then 2, what is the makeup of your roster right now? Where are you guys pulling kids from? You know, traditionally.
Let's address the first thing. And, you know, the first thing, you know, why doesn't there more Division I teams playing? And, you know, it's just a pretty simple thing. It's gender equity.
Yeah.
You know, when you got football driving the cart, and they got 120 guys on the roster, You got to take care of the other side of the gender and make sure they have the same amount of sport opportunities. Universities just don't have any money to start a men's lacrosse program and, pay a good coach and give 12 scholarships. And that's why the slow growth has happened, as kind of we've moved forward. And you see some of it's just very difficult to do in that regard, unless you have somebody like Utah that came in and almost funded the program for them,
Right.
For a year or two. It wasn't Utah, that they made a commitment, obviously, but they had somebody that was pulling the strings of several $1 million that allowed them to do it. But Division III, man, just think about the economics of the equation. You got a lot of small schools, and a lot of them are struggling right now with enrollment. You hire a coach, for 40 or 50, who's very eager, and you give him a little resources with a GA or something. And now he goes out and works his butt off, and he brings in 40 or 50 guys to play for you, and they're all paying a minimum of $25,000 to go to your school. I mean, I'm not a business guy and I'm not a calculus guy, but where can I invest in that? That's one of the, think about how many millions of dollars that's bringing to the university. So that's why Division III is just blowing up. People want students. They need students. They give them an outlet, and it helps them in enrollment. And, I think we're up to 240 some schools now.
Yeah, it's getting up there. So where are you guys pulling from? Are you guys getting all over the country now in Salisbury?
Well, we've been getting all over the country for a while. We've been beating the bushes for a while. But, our captains right now are Josh Melton from Denver. We got Kevin Murphy from Chicago. We just had Will Nowazek, who's working for you guys. It was Chicago. Yep. Was a great player for us. We got guys from Florida. We got guys from Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey. We got guys that play for us from everywhere.
Awesome.
So I don't think there's any borders that, for us that we're worried about or any certain areas. A good lacrosse player is a good lacrosse player, especially if he's a kid that wants to work hard and breathe, lacrosse in an environment where he can get better. He can be successful here for sure.
Awesome.
So, Coach, we wanted to know a little bit, dive in a little bit about you personally. I know from my experience, the hard work that you continue to put in, working out and things of that nature. How are you continuing to stay active amidst the COVID-19 and, probably not being able to get in weight rooms and stuff like that?
Well, Kevin, I got to have 2 wins a day. That's my new objective. I've been doing it for about 3 years. I'm trying to get 2 wins a day. And if there's 2 days a week that I only get 1 win, then I'm okay with that. So, the first thing I do when I hop out of bed is I do 25 or 35 push-ups right away. And of course, brushing my teeth and doing all that stuff in the morning. Right now, I try to get 150 reps. So that in between push-ups, straight leg sit-ups, and curls. And if I break 1,000 for the week, then I've done enough to keep my upper body strength and keep my abs going. And that'd be win number 1 if I break 150 reps. Today, I think I had 185. So I got win number 1. And then 2, because I can't run anymore since I got a partial knee, I got to ride my bike, but I still do it at a really high level. Tonight at 5:30, I'll be riding with 4 or 5 of my friends that are in our club, which we've had to tone it down a little bit because of the situation. We'd usually about 16 or 17 tonight, but because we've had to make the group smaller, we might have 2 groups of 5 or 6. Tonight's TNR, Tuesday night ride, and Tuesday night ride is the hard ride of the week. So tonight we're going to go 42 miles, and about 35 of it is going to be between 24 and 25 miles an hour. I'm probably going to burn around 3,000 calories. But I try to ride 175 miles a week. I rode 8,000 miles last year.
Wow.
And that'll be win 2 for the day. But that's the biking thing for me, not just not biking. It's a real competitive kind of biking. Tonight will be like a race in a lot of ways. It satisfies my inner competitive drive since I can't do the triathlon thing anymore, which I'd gotten into for several years. But not being able to run anymore, it's kind of become, maybe for my cardio part, maybe more of a biker, for sure. But I get after it every day. Don't come to my office between 12 and 1. I'm not going to be in there.
It's not like I'm out eating lunch. I'm out there riding my bike for that hour. You know that from way back. It's been the same way for, 32 years at Salisbury. Don't go see Coach Berkman, at noon, because he ain't going to be in there. He's going to be working out.
Yeah, there's no doubt you practice what you preach. And I do recall a story as you first started coaching, like you said, 30-some years ago, and you said you'd do workouts or sprints with the team. Wasn't there something of that variety back years ago?
Yeah, well, the test, and one of the tests is the 1.5 mile run. And when I took the job, I was about 28, and I was in awful good shape at 28. So I always used to do the 1.5 mile run. I think for probably the first almost to like 44, 45 when I hurt my knee, I used to do the run with everybody every time. And I always say to them when they always say, Coach, well, how fast do I got to go to make it? I said, all you got to do is be in front of me and you're going to make it. Because, I had run so much and in so many races that I could close my eyes and run 6-minute pace and run 8:58 or 8:59 for that 1.5 mile. And if you were in front of me, you were going to make it. And a lot of times I remember I used to be going, telling guys, hey, you guys are behind me right now. You got to get in front of me or you're not going to make it, But I used to do the 1.5 mile run for several years with the team, probably into my mid-40s until I think it was my 44th when I first had the first knee surgery.
Well, that's impressive to say the least. And I think because of that work ethic and determination, it rubs off on the guys. You've had a lot of strong players come out of Salisbury. Can you remember some of the strongest guys? I know one that I played with was Andrew Sellers. That guy, pound for pound, could go up against NFL players. There are some that come to mind for you, some of the strongest out of SU?
Well, if we're talking about strongest players, some of the greatest, there's a lot of really great guys, but, obviously Jason Kaufman was one of the most special offensive players, to ever play here. Jason put us on the map, scored 400 some points, averaged 8.2 points a game for 4 years and was a 4-time first team All-American. He was just an awful good player, and everybody that's seen him play. His brother was a great player, was an All-American at Syracuse. If we look back at it, Jason was probably a lot better than his brother, who was an All-American at Syracuse when it was all said and done. But on the defensive end, I think there's a couple of really special guys. Obviously, Eric Martin played on the world team, played pro for 14 years, was, the National Player of the Year as a defenseman, which is unheard of, dominated every day in practice. Obviously, recently, the improvement of over time of Kyle Hartzell brings a lot of recognition to the program and what he's been doing with the PLL and continues to do and the workouts that he posts. But, Kyle learned to work real hard at Salisbury. Now, if you ever say Kyle Hartzell has done, Kyle Hartzell learned to work hard at Salisbury. He never used to work that hard, but his senior year, he wanted to get on the field. He found a way to get better and improve, and he really learned how to work hard. And then, there's been a lot of great middies. Obviously, Jake Berge was a special player, and Kyler Berkman was 3-time Middie of the Year, which nobody's ever done before. There's been a lot of guys. I mean, you could go on and on about all the really, really good players that, Sam Bradman, Matt Cannoni, Tony Mendez. I mean, there's been guys that just could play anywhere in the country that I've been fortunate enough to coach and develop over time. It's just, you walk in the locker room now, I think we got 17 MLL and pro jerseys and 2 world team jerseys in the locker room now. I don't know many top 10 Division I teams that, have that kind of history when you walk into their locker rooms. Yeah,
at some point, I'd love to see, I'm sure the other Seagull fans would too, the top 10 starting lineup of best Seagulls of all time. That'd be a fun roster.
There you go. There's some social media content for you.
Yeah.
Guys on it.
So, Coach, we'd all love to see you coach forever, but we know that's impossible. You've been at it a long time. You're the winningest coach in history. You keep on building on that. Do you see retirement, in the near future? I know, people are curious.
Kev, I just talked to my high school basketball coach the other day. He's 85 years old. Had an interesting chat with him. Coach Kibling's been retired since he was 53 or 54. He's been retired for 32 years. He almost retired as long as he coached. He said, Jim, you'll know when you're ready to retire. There'll be that point where you don't enjoy it anymore as much. You don't like the practices or you don't like the games. I still love practice, Kevin. I love my day. I love being in the office at 8. I love going to practice. Still love the games, but I love practice more than the games because that's where people get better. Still think we're making an impact on people improving. And then, I don't know when the last time you were here, but man, in the last 7 or 8 years, a lot of special things have happened. And, the stadium alone is just, we went from the pits to the Ritz and, top 10, we got top 10 Division I lacrosse facility, that with a locker room that rivals the top 10 in Division III, Division I. And then with a new business school and a new $120 million library, just got great facilities. What a time to be at Salisbury. And for Division III coaches, we don't make a lot of money, but when you finally do make a lot of money, it's because you stayed there a lot of years and then it starts to multiply. Well, I'm starting to get on that end of the equation a little bit, and I'm kind of enjoying making a lot more than when I used to start. Not that it's a lot by any means, but I still love my day, man. I really miss it right now. I can't find enough projects around the house. I can only ride my bike so far. I think we're a few years out for sure. But the program is the program. It's not Coach Berkman. It's all set in place. When the time's right to leave, the culture and the guys that are helping me will make sure that the program is bigger than any coach, and the program is all about the guys that played here and will want to be carried on to that level of intensity and that level of commitment because of what's been created here over the last 38 years. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I did get the luxury of seeing the new facility and locker room and stadium. Coach Axel took myself and about 60 true lacrosse guys that were on the Eastern Shore for a tournament, gave us the grand tour. And undoubtedly, being in a lot of different locker rooms, it rivals top 10 Division I or anywhere. And it's something I think well-deserved for the Seagull players and coaches alike. During that time, I noticed a lot of Berkmanisms coming from Coach Axel. He's such a good addition to the program from what I can tell. Is he being groomed for the next leader of the Seagulls, or is he just following suit with, how it goes there?
Well, if Coach Berkman decided to quit tomorrow, the program would be in tremendous hands of Justin Axel because he's a great, loyal, dedicated, very intelligent, very hardworking person that leaves no stones unturned. He understands our system backwards and forwards. He bleeds maroon and gold. He knows all the history. He knows all the people that have been through here. Who could even possibly be any of a better choice for Salisbury University when that day comes for me to move on to be? I'm just very fortunate to have somebody like Justin that's my right-hand man that I can call, first of all, my friend, and then my fellow professional and a fellow leader of the legacy of Seagull Lacrosse. Obviously in the higher educations, it's not quite that simple with the hiring practices, but I absolutely wouldn't have any problems rubber stamping that one, Kevin, at any minute if I chose to move on.
That's great. It's awesome having such a, excellent contributor and another coach to that 7-man staff. Again, is most impressive in my opinion than all NCAA.
Coach, we got a couple more minutes here. We really appreciate, all the time you've given us. The last kind of thing we wanted to do is just some more kind of personal questions along the lines of what Kevin started. I always think back when I was a shy 18-year-old. I actually talked to Coach Block. He recruited me at St. Mary's College in Maryland, and a few other coaches. I wish I had asked them more questions about themselves. You know, you sit there and they ask you stuff about you, but you're just not aware of it. So I'm just curious. A lot of the stuff you already alluded to. You know, some of them are lacrosse questions, some of them not. But I just wanted to throw some things together to give people a better idea of who you are, and you've already given us a good glimpse into it.
Fire away.
And I would take the guess it's basketball, but that's a hunch.
You broke up on that one, Elsie. Can you say that again?
Sure, yeah. What's your favorite sport to watch outside of lacrosse?
Oh, definitely basketball. On TV, basketball, hockey in person. I played college basketball, and I grew up playing hockey in upstate New York. When we talk about in person, there's nothing that beats going to a high-level Division I hockey game live. I mean, the intensity, how hard they play every shift for 20 seconds and get off the ice is just you can't even fathom it or grasp it unless you've been there to see that in person.
I can say I have, living in Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, it's an incredible thing. And then basketball, I just love, the transition between offense and defense, the total athlete. I grew up on a playground. I played basketball in the military bases up in upstate New York when I was 12 and 13 with older guys. That allowed me to get this level of skill to play college basketball. My wife gives me a lot of crap about watching too much basketball at night throughout the year. And I love the NBA, especially when we get to the playoffs, man. There's nothing, everybody talks about the NBA not being fun to watch, but nothing beats the NBA when they get to the playoffs. It's
Who's
game
your
on
favorite
now.
player in the NBA right now?
Best athletes in the world playing offense and defense and playing every minute. It's just fun to watch.
Absolutely. Who's your favorite player in the NBA right now?
Right now, I don't know. There's a lot of good players right now.
Favorite to watch.
And a lot of different players. I like LeBron, but I think LeBron's more on the downside of his game, as much as people were touting him as being the chance for an MVP this year. But he's been a guy that's done a lot more than just the game, and he's done it for a long time. And he's done a lot for society. When he speaks, people listen, and I really respect that of him.
Gotcha. Cool. So I'm sure you've watched that documentary on Bill Belichick and Nick Saban. And if you haven't, they've got like an interesting relationship, but both of them seem to do a great job of, obviously winning championships, but it seems like they disconnect. And you already touched on this a little bit. What do you do in your free time to disconnect from lacrosse and kind of clear your headspace?
Well, I don't sit around a lot. Kevin knows I'm a pretty active guy. I got a lot of little vices that I love. Number one is my bike. I ride a lot of miles. I mean, if you ride 180 a week, you're riding 9 hours. So you got to divide that over 7 days. And that's definitely one that takes up a lot of time. I got a motorcycle. I've had one since 2005 that I really love to ride. I don't ride as much as I like, but nothing beats, a great practice Thursday afternoon. You come home, it's, you're all hyped up. It's 5:30 and you walk in the front door, give your wife a kiss and say, honey, I'm just going to go relax for a half hour and go out on your motorcycle, and just go ride free with no worries. There's no double bogeys when you ride your motorcycle. There's no sand traps. There's no water. You hope there isn't. And so it's very relaxing and it's very calming and it's really fun to do. And then we've had a boat for a long time. We bought a bigger boat a few years ago. My wife didn't really like it. We're trying to sell it. We got another really neat little boat. We love to go on the water. We love to go to a couple beaches by boat up in the Cambridge area. We dabble in fishing. I wouldn't say I'm a fisherman. But I'm a pretty good golfer too, but I don't do that a whole lot anymore because the bike thing's gotten real competitive. So there isn't too much downtime, and a lot of times it's just very active time when I'm not coaching lacrosse. I'm not watching a lot of TV. So that's kind of who I am.
Gotcha. Who's your favorite coach in any profession?
my favorite coach is the guy that I started with and who got me into this, and that's my high school basketball coach, Lou Kibling. You know, Coach Kibling was the guy that came early. The guy stayed late. I was always the guy that was knocking at the door when he got there, and I was the guy staying until he kicked us out of the gym an hour after practice, and he would stay that long and let us shoot. And I just always respected him of how hard. You know, in high school, we never practiced less than 3 hours. You know, we had weighted vests. We had medicine ball drills for 20 minutes every day before we even touched a basketball. But I just used to love his passion for practice and detail. And, it's kind of neat, not only Coach Killian was my high school basketball coach, he was my physical education teacher when I was in grade school and elementary school, kindergarten and first grade, and he used to run this little league for us in intramurals to start developing players. And, just always remember just his love of the game and his passion that he transpired to me. I respect that more than any coach, that going forward. He's always been my mentor. He's always been the guy I look up to. And, a guy that I've tried to be, the guy that comes early, the guy that stays late in everything that he does.
Awesome. I think you answered a question later down the road, but that'll make it easy for you. So my next question has been a theory of mine, and it's opinionated and polarizing, but I have an opinion. And being a Maryland guy, growing up in Maryland, I see all these successful college coaches. I got coached by Chris Bates. I found him to be a great coach. I feel like the New York guys seem to have more success than the Maryland guys in the college ranks. There's no answer to that question, but I just think if you have any thoughts, you're a New York guy, big basketball guy, upstate guy, and you guys seem to do a great job of motivating players. And I haven't seen that as much from the Maryland coaches outside of, Coach Toomey does a great job at Loyola. There's definitely a couple others, but a lot of guys are from New York.
Well, I don't know about those other guys from New York, but, I just know growing up in New York, it was just in my little town, Watertown, it was game on every day. It didn't matter. Every day it was game on in our neighborhood, whether it was 2-on-2 inside the snowbanks and we were playing street hockey, or whether we were skating for 9 hours today because we were fortunate to have ice right then, and we were able to get outdoor rinks going. Or we're shoveling the basketball court and playing 3-on-3. Our neighborhood, it was game on every day. And most of the time I was competing against guys that were 4 and 5 years older than me. And we learned to play everything, and so if you look at my background, I've coached everything, women's basketball, men's basketball, college soccer, I've done a lot of different things. I've done the whole club thing. I coached youth soccer and had a great team in Salisbury when my son played, from when they were, 3 years old until they were state champions. When he was a junior in high school, that whole group of kids were the kids that played on my club. But, I think the passion for competing, the passion for preparing has a lot to do with the backyards and the neighborhoods that we were brought up in. It seems like now everybody's on the varsity in 10th grade or the varsity in 9th grade if they're good. And, I don't know what it is, but, man, back when I was in school, nobody was on the varsity in 9th and 10th grade. Man, you had to be a unique freak, and you'd be fortunate to get up there. There was so many good juniors and seniors and so many good, freshmen and sophomores that, that wasn't even a thought when I was in high school. I remember in lacrosse getting brought up at the end of the season when our JVs was over so we could get a few extra practices in with the varsity, but we weren't playing in the games by any means. And you had to respect the process a little bit more, and so when we talk about the process and we're a coach preaching the process and preaching culture, hey, we were all guys that had to do that, when we were growing up. That was what you did. You're on the freshman team, you worked real hard, you got on the JV team, and then hopefully you got better and got to play as a junior and senior on the varsity. But, you had to appreciate the process because it wasn't going to work for you any other way. And I think a lot of us coach like that too now.
Absolutely. So, no, like I said, no wrong answer there. I'm just curious. I'll probably ask every coach I talk to this because just a trend I've noticed. And I've always gravitated more towards the New York coaches. I like the style, and I like that they force you to compete every day. You already mentioned it earlier in this, is you love the Eastern Shore. I grew up Western Shore, but, everybody knows about Kent Island and going over to Easton and Cambridge and then out to Ocean City. What makes the Eastern Shore so special?
Well, first of all, we're surrounded by water. You know, when you look at the Eastern Shore, we're just we're water. And so it moderates the climate in the winters. And, you know, a lot of times when you were growing up and you were over in Anne Arundel County, you know, you'd be getting snow, but you'd look down in Salisbury and they were getting some rain. So the winters are very, very mild, very mild. You know, there's only been a handful of days that I couldn't ride my bike outside with the right gear year round here. It really moderates it. So that makes it special. You know, the growth has been somewhat moderate. It's continuing to, you know, more and more people are moving here, but there's the right amount of people to have fun and do things, but not so many people that we're overpopulated, you know? So there's a lot of places to escape, you know, out into the wilderness, to hunt, to bike, to fish, without having traffic or other humans that are going to infringe upon, you know, those interesting activities. You know, if you're a boater, man, it's paradise. You know, you want to go fishing in the ocean, you can do that. You want to go on, you know, rock fishing in the bay. I mean, there's all these little creeks. I mean, it's just an amazing place. You know, and then the summer does get a little hot. Yeah, for a couple of weeks, you'd probably like to escape to upstate New York in August. But man, when it's the last week in October and it's 75 at night and the day and 55 at night, man, you're saying, man, I'm glad I moved to the shore. Thank God it's not, I'd be upstate New York and be snowing right now. But I think it has just a great year-round climate. The only thing I miss is the opportunity to ski, which I can get away and do. But if you're an outdoorsman, you know, there's not too many people that wouldn't want to live on the shore.
Absolutely. So I got another question, and I actually texted Eric DeMunda, and I said, what would you want to ask Coach Berkman? And he had an interesting question. He said during the early 2000s, you know, there was a lot of really good teams. You guys were, you know, rarely losing a game, and it was usually in between 3 seasons. He says, what kind of pressure was that like to continue that streak and continue to go win championships?
Well, I think since 1994, when we won our first championship, and we had a great run, especially in 94, 95, had, you know, 2 of the best teams of all time in Division III, that there hasn't been a year since then. And we just had the 25th and 26th year reunions of those 2 teams. There hasn't been a year since then. I don't believe that our guys didn't think we were winning a championship. You know, people say, Coach, what do you think you're going to do this year? You know what I'll say? Going to win a championship. They're like, are you crazy? You know, no, I think we're that good. If we get a little bit better, we've recruited well, guys have worked hard, we got great leaders, you know, so every year we think we have a chance. And I don't think there's any more pressure, you know, back when Eric was there. And, you know, if we hadn't lost a goal in overtime, we would have won like 7 in a row.
Yeah, I'm not allowed to bring that up.
And there was in this season when we were 7-0, we thought we were winning the championship. So, and everybody around us expects we're winning too. There's not a person that comes to those games that don't think we're winning that game and don't think we're winning this year. So, you know, that's kind of what you buy into when you come here. And that pressure alone drives you to do extra stuff.
Yep.
Because you don't want to let you don't want your teammates down. You don't want the captains down. You don't want the coaches down. You got a great community following you don't want to let down. And then you don't want to let the legacy down. You know, any kids played here now, what are they coming into? Every guy that's played here in the last 23 years, what have they done? They've
Right.
won a national championship. So, you know, that kind of feeds the monster in a good way, you know, and obviously it puts more pressure, you know, like more preparation, more, man, because you just got to keep it going. But, you know, I think that's just a fun, for me, I love to compete. So that's fun for me.
Awesome. So last thing we're trying to do here, and you've already mentioned it once, is, you know, to score a goal, you got to get to 5 and 5. Our last section is we just want to rapid fire 5 quick questions, you know, 5 seconds to answer. Just give us your knee-jerk reaction. They're pretty simple stuff. We sent you some of them. You know, I think what we want to try to do is just get some more feel for how you guys operate and, you know, what your opinions are. So I put together some quick questions, had Kevin take a look at them. First question, craziest Salisbury player ever?
Craziest? There's been a couple crazy ones. I'm not going to lie. Louis Gonzalez was in his own right a little crazy.
Yeah, he's a cop now, so there you go. LeBron or MJ?
MJ.
It's an easy one in my mind. Favorite championship team as a coach?
94 and 2008.
Beautiful. Lacrosse coach you respect the most?
Coach Jancic.
Awesome. If you were to ever coach anywhere else, where would it be?
Cuse.
Beautiful. Coach, that's all we got. Kevin, what else you got? Anything else?
Awesome, Coach. We really appreciate you giving us an insight into Coach Berkman and the Seagulls for all those outsiders out there that are wondering what the heck is going on the Eastern Shore in the water or in the preparation and in the culture. So we really appreciate it. I always love catching up with you. We hope that things calm down and get a little bit back to normal so I can see you at some recruiting events in June and July as usual. But thanks so much. It was awesome hanging out for the last hour.
Yeah, Coach, I know if you had called me in 2002, I would have changed my opinion on where I would have gone.
Well, thanks you guys for having me on. I really appreciate it. All my best to True Lacrosse. If we can ever do anything for anybody in True, that we're here for you.
Awesome.
Thanks, Coach.
Okay, thanks, Coach. Have a good day.
All right, bye-bye.